All right, so for today's lesson, we're going to be learning about two different forms of the quadratic equation. This is very similar to when we learned about our linear equation, which was y equals mx plus b. And there actually are other forms of the linear equation. We just never learned about them. Well, there are two forms of the quadratic equation that we are going to focus on. Then the first one is standard form, and the second one is factored form. And one of the important things is that we do recognize these when we see them. Even though you don't need to necessarily memorize them, you just do need to say, oh, I see what that looks like. That looks like standard form. So standard form is the one that we've already seen. And I'm just going to give you an example. Y equals, let's say, 3x squared plus 2x plus 5. That would be an example of standard form. Now, what do we notice here? Well, we have multiple terms. Usually there are no parentheses, no anything else. It just kind of goes in order like that. You could have, so let's say this is example 1. You could have other examples. So let's say example 2. And I don't want these to confuse you. That's why we're going to go over a couple of different ones. You might have something like y equals, let's say, x squared plus x. Now, this time you only have two terms, but that's okay. It's still a standard form because it still goes in that same general pattern. And then the one that's the most confusing, if I haven't told you this, something very simple like y equals x squared, that is standard form. Okay, you could imagine like these other numbers are just zeros, like plus 0x plus 0. It still follows that same pattern. Now, let's look at factored form. There's only two examples we need to look at for factored form. So example 1, this is generally what it looks like. Y equals, one thing you're going to notice is there are parentheses. And usually two sets of parentheses. It'd be something like x plus 5 times, I don't know, x minus 9. Oops, minus 9. That is what we call factored form. We're going to learn all about this form and why it's called that. But you just need to kind of know, oh, you see the parentheses, that's factored form. The other example I want to show you is, let's say it's y equals something like x times x minus 7. That would also be factored form because you have, factored means multiplication. So things that multiply together are factors. Well, you have two things that are multiplying together. So you have, in this case, two terms that are multiplying, or sorry, two expressions that are multiplying together. In this case, you have the x and this, they're multiplying together. That's where that name comes from. You just need to be able to recognize it when you see it, though.